Welcome back to the Crease Hockey Podcast. Today is Tuesday, January 19th, 2021. Had a pretty busy first week of the NHL season, and we're just going to hop right into some news just from the couple recent days. One of the biggest ones happening today is that the Carolina Hurricanes and Nashville Predators game has been canceled, and my one fear is that this is going to just be the first of many. We are still playing through COVID, and with everything, we're going to see positive cases. We're going to see games postponed. That game currently does not have a makeup date yet. The teams are currently discussing that. But tonight's game, though, has been canceled. Several players in the last few days have been fined for varying offenses. Nicholas Aube-Kubel of the Philadelphia Flyers has been fined $4,633 for an offense committed in a game against the Sabres, which, of course, that for him is his maximum allowed. Elias Pettersson as well in the Vancouver Canucks fined $3,987 for slashing Calgary Flames forward Sean Monahan. Again, that is his maximum allowable. And then Greg Pateryn, who we will get to in just a couple of seconds, has been fined $5,000 for cross-checking Anaheim Ducks forward Sonny Milano. And that is also the maximum allowable under the collective bargaining agreement. So the NHL's Department of Player Safety has been pretty busy the last few days. And then back onto talking about Greg Pateryn, he has been, just moments before recording this, has been traded to the Colorado Avalanche in exchange for Ian Cole. So a pretty decent trade right there. A very simple trade, just 1-for-1, defenseman for defenseman. Overall, just seems like just moving players to see where each one of those teams, now that they are going to be playing each other a lot more and seeing what each one can do. Feel like the fit seems great to be able to go ahead and swap teams with those guys. So we're going to keep today's episode just a little bit shorter. And so to hop into the next part, we're going to hop into a who's hot and who's not. So we'll jump into the top 5 of who is hot right now to start the NHL season. And starting in the number 5 spot for who I think has one of the hotter starts this year has been the Montreal Canadiens. Now, this is not a power rankings. This is not me saying these teams are going to be the absolute best at the end of the season or are going to be the absolute best by the end of the season. And are certainly, but right now these are the teams that stand out to me as so far having one of the hottest starts to the season. So Montreal, starting the season off 2-0-1, I believe all 3 games against Edmonton. And in every single game, Montreal looked dominant, to say the least, against Edmonton. They were able to keep McDavid and Draisaitl quiet, which, of course, is a huge task for any team to do. But Montreal just looked very sharp. Thomas Tatar came out in those first 3 games looking very, very strong. It's going to be a very exciting season for Montreal. And just remember that we are only 3 games in. But through these first 3 games, and at the time of recording this, I'm considering Montreal to be the 5th hottest team in the National Hockey League. In 4th place, the Washington Capitals. It's no surprise to see Washington up here. Washington has always, usually for the most part, been a dominant team in the past decade. And there's no reason that they're still unable to continue that dominance. Samsonov has played really great in net so far. Ovi is closing in on records again and again. Overall, Washington has looked like they've played a very clean season so far. And again, just 3 games in, though, Washington seems to be the 4th hottest team in the National Hockey League. At number 3, the Toronto Maple Leafs. Toronto, again, and playing in the dreaded North Division, so the second and final North team to make the list. But Toronto, having played, for the most part, the most amount of games so far out of every single team with 4, sitting at 3-1-0. And again, Toronto looking very, very sharp. Matthews, Marner, in their games against Ottawa looked very, very solid. And overall, I expect to see a lot more of that coming out of Toronto this season. I don't see any reason why they won't be able to continue this hot pace. Frederik Andersen has looked decent. The defense in front of him has looked a little bit shaky. Their goal differential right now is only just sitting at +2. So while they are winning games, they are still allowing a fair amount of goals in those games. Defense is going to be the question for Toronto at the start of the season, and so far it still looks like that seems to be the one factor that is preventing them from potentially being even better than they probably could be. But so Toronto takes the number 3 spot. In the number 2 spot, the Vegas Golden Knights. Vegas so far 3 games, 3-0 to start the season, and Vegas had a huge comeback win last night against Arizona, and Vegas, a very, very sharp-looking team as always. I am not going to be surprised if we see Vegas make a deep playoff run this season, along with Colorado, although Colorado has gotten off to a slower start, who we will talk about in just a couple of minutes. But Vegas, so far, moving the puck well as always. Goaltending playing very, very solid. Defense in front of their goaltending is playing really, really well. They're being able to score. Overall, Vegas just looks like they're clicking on all cylinders, and it's going to be a fun season, and Vegas could potentially have a very good shot at being able to make a run at the President's Trophy at the rate that they are continuing to play at. And so Vegas takes the number 2 spot and wrapping up the number 1 spot for hottest teams to start the year. And it is no surprise, though, that it is the Tampa Bay Lightning. Only played 2 games, both against the Blackhawks, but they just wash over the Blackhawks and really just came out strong and continue to show that they are the Tampa Bay Lightning. You know, they are going to be a team that is going to be hard to beat. They're going to be a team that is going to make a really strong push this season again to try to repeat as champions. Vasilevsky's played amazing. Every bit of the Tampa Bay Lightning so far has been outstanding. Their offensive production right now has been second to none. Again, beating out the Chicago Blackhawks in consecutive games, and without really making it, without very much resistance, it looks like from the Blackhawks. So, but Tampa being able to continue to show their dominance in the first 2 games of the season. And so Tampa Bay is going to take the number 1 spot, though, for who is the hottest team to start the season. Starting now into the who's not category. So this is just teams that I feel have had a very slow start to the season. Either teams were expecting them to be better than they were, or just in general look like they're coming out very, very slow to start the season. And so at the number 5 spot, though, I do have the Pittsburgh Penguins. Pittsburgh, as of right now, due to their goal differential, is currently sitting last place in the East Division. A 1-2 record. They are going to be playing the Washington Capitals next, so they're going to have a very tough couple games now going up against Ovi up in Washington. But Pittsburgh has looked like they've just come out flat. Not a whole lot of goal scoring happening. It looks like they're really struggling to be able to put the puck in the net, and they're also struggling to keep the puck out of the net. And Pittsburgh, I feel like a lot of people were expecting them to be a lot higher than they should be right now, and should be playing a lot better than they are. And so for who's not hot right now, the Pittsburgh Penguins take the number 5 spot there. At number 4, another team who people expected to come out hard and have really come out kind of flat, the Colorado Avalanche. Now remember, this is not a power rankings. This is not ranking the absolute worst teams. This is just which teams tend to be, streaking or otherwise in their last few games. And Colorado, as of right now, just 2 games into the season, though, sits at 1-1. And while that's obviously not a lot to show, they got not shut out, but they did lose 5-1 to St. Louis in their opening game, and then came back right out of the gate to end up beating St. Louis 8-0. And I feel a lot of people were expecting Colorado's offense, though, to be a lot more dominant. And again, just 2 games into the season is very hard to tell, but to kind of see them on the lower end of the standings, even with a decent goal differential and everything like that, Colorado right now still kind of looking to, in a sense, try to find that stride. And if Colorado can turn things around, they will no longer be on the who's not list. Taking up the number 3 spot, though, on that top 5 is the Vancouver Canucks. Vancouver, 4 games into the season, just sitting at a 1-3 record right now. A lot of people were expecting Vancouver to kind of look like the same Canucks as last year. And after a good couple games in Calgary, but still coming up short in those games, Calgary did show why they are the much better team than Vancouver. It is still, again, early in the season, but Vancouver, with a team that a lot of people were expecting to play a lot better than they are, Vancouver so far has looked pretty disappointing. Their top stars are not really being able to score. Elias Pettersson, Brock Besser, just to name a couple. But their defenses look very flat, and Vancouver has not been playing the cleanest hockey in the most recent games. And so that wraps up for Vancouver. And then for the second spot on the who's not hot, a team that, again, this could be kind of controversial, but again, this has nothing to do with power rankings or anything like that. But a team that so far has looked not the greatest so far has been the Boston Bruins. They have yet to score a 5-on-5 goal. Their offense is noticeably missing David Pastrnak, and it is now completely obvious as to why they actually desperately need a guy like Pastrnak in their lineup. While their defense is still holding up pretty well, and they've been in most of the games up to this point, obviously only losing every single game by, and of course winning the one game, and of course losing the other 2 by just a single goal. Against a team like New Jersey, Boston really had a good opportunity to be able to try to kind of show that they are or do still have the potential to be a good top team. However, though, in coming out flat against New Jersey in the second game of those 2 series, and then failing to score a goal last night against the New York Islanders, Boston is really trying to look for some sort of a spark here, I would feel, early in the season. And again, it is still 3 games into the season, but at this point with teams and expectations probably on Boston to be a lot higher than they are, I've decided to put Boston at the number 2 spot. And then the number 1 spot for the who is not list, the Chicago Blackhawks. 3 games to start the season, 3 losses, not even a single point to this point. And the Blackhawks look like they have and we'll touch on this in just a couple minutes because this is the one big topic that I would like to talk about today. But Chicago, their defense isn't clicking. Their offense is unable to get going. Their lack of goaltending now is really, really starting to show. They're just about to go to their 3rd goaltender in 4 nights, or in 4 games. And a lot of people, of course, were expecting Chicago to at least maybe be able to put up some fight, but as of right now, Chicago putting up very little resistance against the very tough Central division, and of course people expecting Chicago to potentially make some noise against Florida, still unable to do that. And so the top spot for the Who's Not list is taken by the Chicago Blackhawks. And now, since we're on the topic of the Chicago Blackhawks, and this was something that was brought to my attention, and I decided to look into it, and just after seeing it, definitely is something that should be taken notice of. And that is, of course, identifying what is wrong with the Chicago Blackhawks. And to me, of course, it all starts from the top and bleeds its way down. So in the press conference following their most recent loss to the Florida Panthers, head coach Jeremy Colleton, in his post-game press conference, did not look emotionally invested in his team. That is a significant red flag if you are a GM, if you are an owner, if you are a fan, if you are a player. When you have a coach who's supposed to be the leader in the locker room, he's supposed to go out there and obviously, try to rally to the troops and be able to give his team the best chance to win every night by implementing, game plan, everything that comes down to being a coach. And Colleton looks emotionally uninvested in coaching the Blackhawks right now. And it shows in the way that the Blackhawks are playing. The Blackhawks, in all 3 games so far, have looked incredibly slow. And at 3 games into the season, they've already looked like they've given up. Which, 3 games into the season should not be the case. It is not... I don't think that this is a case of the Blackhawks are missing Doc and they are missing Taves. This, to me, is something that runs a lot deeper than that. While the Hawks are missing 2 big scoring pieces, they still have several depth pieces that should be able to, well, not completely fill the gap, should at least be able to take on a little bit more. Dominic Kubalik has been silent so far. Patrick Kane has been silent. The Blackhawks defense has looked atrocious, to say the least. Their defense and whatever defensive system that Colleton thinks he's running is not working. And again, this comes down to it looks like the players are emotionally uninvested in playing as well. And when your coach looks like he doesn't care, the players are going to take that as he doesn't care, the players don't care. These are all professional athletes. These are all NHL players. Regardless as to if the Blackhawks were the best team in the NHL or not, they are still NHL athletes. These guys have been picked as the best of the best in the world to play at this level. And they are just getting skated around. The Blackhawks do not look like an NHL team this year. They are currently not running like they are an NHL team this year. The looks like most nights the players have no fight. Some of them want to play, some of them want to try, but it seems like most of the team just does not care. And so it seems. And again, I think a lot of that stems from Jeremy Colleton. Now, the scary part about it, and this is the one thing that I've said from the very beginning since Colleton got hired 2 or 3 years ago, and that is that I did not like... It wasn't that I did not like Quenneville getting fired. I did not like how quickly they moved Jeremy Colleton through the system, just for starters. Most oftentimes, if a coach is going to get fired, you either just have an interim and you find out who that is. But I have never seen before just the AHL head coach immediately get promoted up to NHL head coach. What's also scary is that Colleton, at the time of being called up, was not... The Rockford Ice Hogs, who are the Chicago Blackhawks AHL affiliate, were not a top team. They were a middle-of-the-road team when Colleton was coaching them. And then they bring Colleton up to the NHL, and immediately the Blackhawks start playing like they just did not know how. Whatever system Colleton has decided to run has not worked for the past 2 seasons. And again, for me, the thing that I am most scared to see is the fact that Stan Bowman thought it was a great idea to re-sign him for another 2 years. And again, it just looks like Colleton doesn't care. And it just kind of makes you wonder then how many other players, how many other coaches, how much of the front office thinks that way as well. Very difficult to kind of tell with that. I thought Bowman did a great job in being able to keep the Blackhawks competitive for a while. The one trade that, in my opinion, that started his downfall and the Blackhawks' downfall was the original Artemi Panarin trade to the Columbus Blue Jackets, which brought back Brandon Saad to Chicago. Now, I like Brandon Saad. I think he's a great player. I feel like he's a great depth player. But that was a trade where the Hawks gave up way too much and did not get the same value back in return. And that is a trade that ultimately, I think, started the downfall of and has put the Blackhawks in the position that they're in right now. But now 2 years into that and seeing the same struggles, defensively especially, with lack of defensive coverage, it looks like no one wants to move in the defensive zone. Guys get wide open all the time. Odd man rushes are happening just about every other shift. There's something wrong right now in the Blackhawks system, and obviously I'm not the one to fix it. That is Stan Bowman's job. That is Rocky Wirtz's job. That is John McDonough's job. That is the front office's job to do. But when you have a fan base like you do in Chicago, and you have a bunch of players, say for example Taze, Kane, and Keith, a lot of veterans on that team, that want to remain competitive, and you do not even give them an opportunity to be able to play for something competitive. If you are a head coach in the NHL, you need to look invested in your team. Even if you know you have the potential of getting fired, you still need to show like you actually care about your team and are willing to do what you can to make sure that your players are following you. Right now, it seems like there is no leadership, no true leadership in that Blackhawks locker room. And there are potential players that can do it. Keith, Kane, just to name a couple. You add those guys into it, and they should have the drive that they want to win. And right now, like I said, it just seems like the team is not rallying to Coach Colleton. And it seems like they haven't since the very beginning. And that should be a significant red flag if you are Stan Bowman. And should be a good warning that something needs to change in that locker room or behind the bench or in that front office. But after all that is said, there's going to be a great night of hockey to watch tonight. It's going to be interesting to see how the Blackhawks do tonight. They are playing against Florida again tonight. They are going to be putting Kevin Lankin in the net, so their third netminder of the 3 that they are allowed to have, and only their 4th game of the season. So we'll see if Lankinen can actually step up and hopefully deliver the Blackhawks a chance tonight against the Florida Panthers. So I just want to say thank you all for watching or for listening. And if you guys do enjoy, feel free to go ahead and hit like and subscribe. Feel free to share this with anyone who think might like it. And I will talk to you all soon. Have a good night. Bye.